speaker is here. Thank you so much, Alan, for joining us. Thank you so much, Agnes, for joining us too. My name is Shana Shamim, actually. Welcome to Inclusive Talk. Inclusive Talk is, it's supposed to be monthly, but because we wanted to draw attention to the Sustainable Development Goals, we decided to have a weekly arrangement to discuss some of the important sustainable development goals that do impact most of our work. So this is why we're holding the talk weekly. So really, Inclusive Talk, it's just navigating disability in today's world. It's designed to have voices of women with disabilities in the world's affairs. As most of you know, we do not have these spaces whereby we can contribute to current affairs, and yet our voices are just as important. So today's topic, we're going to discuss the Sustainable Development Goal 16. This speaks to peace, justice, and institutions. Our speakers will delve into the topic, but our co-hosts, my co-hosts, the Executive Director of NAFET Solar Foundation, Asha Namatovu, and Gender and Disability Inclusion Expert, Advocate, Maureen Kalunji. I myself am a Gender and Disability Expert. So we are in the right space with the right people. I won't take up much of your time. I will give the floor to Asha. Asha, please, you can take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Shana. Welcome to our episode of Inclusive Talk. Good evening, everyone. My name is Namatov Asha, founder and director of NAFET Solar Foundation. I'm also a disability inclusion advocate and very passionate about inclusive employment. So I want to thank our guests, Alan and Agnes, for joining the call, and our listeners. Michael, welcome to the talk. The Inclusive Talk is a very interactive space where we have our participants also give their points of view. We also usually have a Q&A of some sorts at the end of the talk. Because we are behind time, let me just dive in. So, Agnes, I'm coming to you. Your expertise and insights are invaluable in addressing the pressing issues surrounding the rights and well-being of women and girls with disabilities, particularly in upcountry areas or rural areas. Your dedication to advocating for the rights of these girls and women and your knowledge of effective strategies makes your participation and your perspective tonight very crucial. With that in mind, I'd like to delve into some critical questions regarding the challenges and solutions pertaining to ending abuse, exploitation, and violence against women and girls with disabilities, as well as ensuring their access to justice. Your reflections on successful initiatives, data collection challenges, and various justice will provide a valuable guidance for policymakers and advocates and practitioners working towards gender equality and inclusive justice systems. My question to you tonight, I'll begin with asking you that can you share examples of successful initiatives or strategies? Sorry, let me come. What are some successful examples or programs or initiatives that have helped to end abuse, exploitation, and violence against women and girls with disabilities in Uganda? Agnes, over to you.
Thank you so much, Asha. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I'm called Agnes, a feminist lawyer, and also a gender and someone interested in the gender and disability movement. That question of the successful programs and initiatives that have helped end violence against women and girls with disabilities in the urban rural. The first strategy that we are looking at, or the program that we are looking at, is awareness creation, which comes in the form of advocacy. Awareness question can be looked at through, when you look at upcountry, they usually have community radios. So we've been impactful in any way and where we've wanted to talk about issues of gender-based violence, for example, ending it amongst women and girls. We've used the community radios. We've used the radios, the local radios at the different districts where, for example, we work as an organization. I work for FIDA Uganda. So you find that these community radios and the radios themselves, they pass on the messages using the local languages. But even also in the urban areas, the radios themselves do. Because when you look at SDG 16, it looks at reduced violence and how to protect children from abuse. Children, looking at girls with disabilities, how do you protect them from abuse? How do you protect them from trafficking, exploitation, and how do you protect rule of law? So through awareness and through the advocacy bit where we are sharing information on our platforms, we're sharing them through community radios, through radio talk shows, even television, where some areas have televisions. The messages have come to be received by the targeted audience, even those ones that don't know that some types of disabilities exist, but they are facing this kind of challenges like violence, are coming in to ensure that these women are protected at the end of the day. The other strategy is building capacity of the stakeholders like the LCs and the police. Usually when exploitation happens, or sexual and gender-based violence happens, the victim and the survivors first run to their local leaders or the police. So building their capacity, those two entities, is very, very vital. How do you build their capacity? Through showing them how to handle such cases of women and girls with disabilities. For example, you tell them that, for example, if you get someone with hearing disability, they need interpretation. They need a sign language interpreter. If you don't have one, for example, at the district or at your station, call a relative of theirs. Find out who their relatives is, because usually they know the gestures in which to communicate with these people. Also, the other thing is just to build their capacity on how to be responsive. Because usually girls and women with disabilities that have come to FIDA Uganda have told us that the police was not responsive to my issue. I reported, but they did not. They just let the perpetrator go off or go scot-free. So this is something that has really, really pressed women and girls with disabilities. The other aspect that we are looking at is access to justice, and this can be through legal aid. When you look at SDG 16, it talks about access to justice, and then it also talks about the aspect of women and girls have a right to access to justice. Uganda has ratified to the SDGs. There are 17 of them, but then today we are discussing SDG 16. When you look at the organizations that I've worked for NUDIPO, I'm now working for FIDA Uganda. They have an aspect of legal aid services. These are free services that are given to the vulnerable people. Like any other NGO, we do fundraising and we get projects. So we have the DIGI project, which is enhancing access to justice for women and girls with disabilities in Uganda. And these have been really effective. Last year alone, we received over 7,000 women with disabilities and girls with disabilities, plus mothers of children with disabilities, who reported their cases to us through models of, we conduct mobile legal aid clinics, for example. We do awareness session. Mobile legal aid clinic is us taking the service to the ground to ensure that at the end of the day, whoever has a complaint is registered and we follow up and we ensure that there is prosecution at the end of the day. The other thing is ensuring that we have access to shelters. We have partner organizations who have shelters. If someone has been, for example, abused or exploited or trafficked, for example, you have to ensure that you take them away from the situation which has caused them harm to another situation where they can be kept safely. And through those shelters, we've seen rehabilitation, we've seen counseling, we've seen after some time, like maybe 6 months or 3 months, depending on what the organization has in place, these people have been reintegrated into the community, they've been relocated into their different families, and they've been counseled and supported through empowerment, economic empowerment specifically. During their stay at the shelter, they are given a skill, maybe tailoring, maybe how to make bar soap, how to do hairdressing, among others. And the other thing, prosecution and protection. Those two P's are very, very important. We have to protect the victims. We've ensured that we protect the victims from their perpetrators through prosecution. We've ensured that they've followed up, and these prosecution are not going off scot-free, but we've followed up their matters. So apart from those ones, we're also looking at things like ensuring we involve the survivors in our programming. When you're doing a fundraising and you've come up with a project, don't just go and just start implementing. You need to do a situation analysis and find out these girls and women with disabilities that are survivors of gender-based violence. What have they gone through? How can we involve them? How can they be part of this program? How can they support? Can they be activists, for example? That has also been helpful. Also, working with the local leaders and the police is very, very vital. Safe spaces for these people. The women in the different rural areas need safe spaces where they can meet and discuss. Especially the target group of women and girls with disabilities. The safe spaces where they are free to say out their grievances. And this, you can look at wills, you can look at you can ask a district to give you an office where these women can meet. Also, economic empowerment is one thing. Male allies. Sometimes we speak to ourselves as women, as feminists, as women in disability justice lane, but then at the end of the day, we're not bringing the men on board. Yet when you look at the majority of the perpetrators, these are men. So when you bring men on board, they will know, they will pass on the message, because we live in a patriarchal community where men are listened to over women. But then at the end of the day, we have to ensure that we involve them in ensuring that there's no exploitation, there's no sexual abuse, there's no gender-based violence against women and girls with disabilities. And then also ensuring that we do awareness sessions and sex education in schools is also very, very vital. Some of these girls with disabilities are in school, so we need to tackle the schools. They need to know what's going on. Some disabilities, like the people who do the speech impairment and the speech disability, they can't speak. When these violences take place, they don't know what to do. So we need to ensure that at the end of the day, each type of disability is tackled. Then also the referral pathway has to be clearly stated. We have to come up with IEC materials on this. Where do you report in case something happens to you? Which are the legal aid providers? Which are the stakeholders to help you? Yeah. Then also, lastly, working with the cultural leaders is very, very vital if we work with cultural leaders, because there are some cultures that still believe that some types of disabilities are riches, or they believe that when you give birth to a child with disabilities, they have to be abused and something. So working together with the culture institutions and working together with for example, the queens of the different kingdoms, it's very, very vital and can also help us. It's a strategy that we can use to end gender-based violence amongst women and girls with disabilities. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Alex. There are a lot of follow-up questions and probably another session that we need to go through to cover this. But thank you for now. Maureen, I think you're up next. As Maureen comes in, we have another speaker, Alan Cavalli, who is my brother and one that I'm very proud of. Alan, perhaps you can introduce yourself. Yeah, Maureen is back. Apologies, Maureen is having network issues. Maureen, if you can hear, why don't we let Alan introduce himself as you rectify your situation. Alan, please take the floor and introduce yourself as Maureen comes back in.
Yes, thank you, Asha. I'm glad to be part of this discussion. I'm Cavalli Alan. I'm a lawyer by profession, and SDG 16 directly has an impact or affects my work. I'm looking forward to discussing when that time comes. Maureen, maybe you look for a place with good network. You are on and off. You need a stable network. Otherwise, you are not getting what you're saying.
Decided to make it.
Okay, sorry about that. Maureen's network seems to be failing. I will jump in and give you your question, Alan. As a person with a disability, in fact, you're a practicing lawyer, what barriers or challenges have you encountered as a practicing lawyer? Thank you so much, Alan.
Yes, thank you, dear host. Hope I'm clear. Am I clear?
Yes, very
Crystal
clear.
clear.
Yes. Thank you for that question. Much as it's limited to as a person with a practicing lawyer with disability, the challenges I do face as a lawyer with disability are not unique from those people with disabilities generally face in the workspaces. They are more or less the same, but allow me to bring out a few of them. One, I face trust issues. Yes, thank you so much. Yes, I was talking about trust issues. This is basically the skepticisms or fears potential clients have and also colleagues at work. People think that as a person with disabilities, your disability affects your efficiency and effectiveness in as far as executing your duties are concerned. So, a client will fear giving you work, thinking that you may not be able to effectively deliver to the expectations. So this affects you in getting clients or getting instructions, even from your senior colleagues. Because I've shared this before, people may think that you may not be able to perform despite having the competences. So we face trust issues from colleagues and also clients. Yes, related to the above, it's limited clients or no clients. Yes, because of the disability, someone would be thinking of giving, let me use myself as an example, Alan, work, but because of the earlier challenge I said of trust, so you end up not getting clients. And the legal profession is a highly competitive field. Clients want quick results. There is a trusted person without a disability, since they think that such a person will deliver fast the results they need. So because of that, we end up having little or no clients. So another challenge is about accessibility. The legal profession is mainly practiced in courts and JLC-related institutions. JLC is Justice, Law and Order sector, which involve judiciary, it involves courts, police, it involves prisons, and other areas, CDOs, officers, probation offices. So those places are inaccessible to a lawyer with a physical disability. So that's a great challenge, whereby I have a colleague of mine, Counsel Chandia. He narrated a situation where he had a case, but it was supposed to be heard on the third floor, and he could not represent the client. So he missed out on the client because of the inaccessible structure. So colleagues with disabilities face access challenges, which affects their work. Maybe if I can talk about other disabilities, uh, if for example someone is a visually impaired lawyer with, so such a person will have issues with accessing information. Judgments are not delivered in braille form, and you have now so many of them, so many colleagues who are visually impaired who have become lawyers. So such a person will find challenges in accessing information, judgments, and other law materials which are in either copy or copy, which are in braille form. When it comes to colleagues who are having hearing impairment, few courts have sign language interpreters. That's a challenge they also face, because there will be communication gap either between the lawyer, this lawyer with hearing impairment communicating with the client or with the judicial officer. So those are some of the challenges persons with disabilities face in as they practice their legal profession. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alan, for that. Very enlightening. I'm glad you brought up the example of Emmanuel, who took the court to court for having an inaccessible physical structure. Because how does someone get to the third floor to have their case handled? And yet these buildings, they often tell us that, you see, this building was constructed in 1900, so we cannot change it, what. So it was a good way for him to have justice taken in his hands. Okay, so this goes to you, Agnes. What challenges exist in collecting data on violence and related death, victims and survivors of sexual violence faced by women and girls with disabilities? Wow. Agnes, I don't know why you're like, oh yeah, I have sent you a request to speak, Agnes. I didn't know you were a listener. Agnes, you can send in your request to speak, because I'm sending it, but it doesn't seem to be responded to. Okay, Agnes
Could
seems
we
to
go to
be,
could we go
yeah.
to Council Alan again
Let's
as
go to
Agnes
Council
connect?
Alan.
Because
Was I off? I'm sorry. Was I off? I've just
you've
Yes,
been
come.
you were.
off and Alan has spoken and we are trying to get Agnes to speak. But you could go ahead and ask Alan question number 2, Maureen, if you're ready.
No, Alan has dropped off. Maybe Agnes can speak.
Yes, please.
Yes, Agnes, you can go on, please.
What's the question? I didn't hear the question.
Okay, let me share with you the question again. It says, what challenges exist in collecting data on violence and related death? On violence and related death, victims and survivors of sexual violence faced by women and girls with disabilities. So we're looking at the challenges in collecting data on violence against women and also related deaths for survivors of violence faced by women and girls with disabilities.
Thank you, Shanna. The first one is delayed census. I think you would understand that whenever Uganda carries out its census after 10 years, and they are doing another one this year. So this census usually helps us with the statistics on how many people are there, how many people are there with disabilities. So it gives us information on how many people we have with disabilities, how many homesteads are there, etc., etc. When this census, the 10 years are too many for us to get how many people with disabilities are in Uganda. Already we are still on that statistics of 12%. Because every report you see, there are 12% persons with disabilities. No, I believe these statistics are not correct. You get it? They're not so much correct. So we need the census. We need continued census. Let it be reduced to 4 years at least. so that we have this information somewhere. The other aspect is lack of reporting by women and girls with disabilities. They go through a lot, but they what? They don't report the cases of gender-based violence. So they end up remaining in situations of the sexual gender-based violence, and they end up being killed because they didn't report. And once you don't report a matter, that means the police won't note it down, and when a report is maybe being sent to Ministry of Internal Affairs, the statistics won't be gotten because the women and the girls with disabilities are not reporting. There is a certain group of persons with disabilities that I can call them shy. They're the minorities. People living with albinism, for example, they're usually shy. So usually they are facing domestic violence, they are facing gender-based violence, but then you find that they are not reporting. So lack of reporting is also a challenge that we are looking at in getting the statistics on gender-based violence and the deaths of victims of women and girls with disabilities. The other aspect is non-responsiveness from stakeholders like police and the local leaders. Usually they go and report, but then the chairman will be like, you go back to your husband, sit as a woman, you're supposed to listen to him. Or they'll be like, man, that man helped you to what? To marry you. So why are you reporting him? What do you want us to do for you? The police won't take these cases very serious because they think women with disabilities and girls with disabilities just report anyhowly. They don't know that sometimes someone has come to them for help. So the non-responsiveness from police and the local executive committee at the different districts and villages has really also is also a challenge that we are finding in the data collection, because once someone reports, it's noted down, and when a report is sent out to their different bosses and Ministry of Internal Affairs and local government being their offices, this information is usually captured and fed into the statistics at the bureau. Then the other thing that we are looking at is the immobility, stroke accessibility. This can be physically, this can be to information. Physically, these are women and girls with these physical disabilities who can come, for example, and report their cases to the different stakeholders that they are facing gender-based violence. Also, they have a fear of reporting, like I've said. But then also, when you look at the mobility and the accessibility, maybe information or physically or in any other form that you can think of, we have an issue of stigmatization. When a woman and girl with disabilities go and report, sometimes they are stigmatized. They are made fun of. So you find that they won't report. I come to you with a problem, I tell you my problem, and you start laughing, or you start asking me silly questions on how I got this man because of the way I am. This shows that I won't report anymore. I won't follow up my cases. They're not following up these cases. So you find that how many are dying due to gender-based violence, how many are experiencing sexual gender-based violence. We don't have those statistics in place because of that. They report once, you laugh at them, or you make a comment, or they feel like they are not being listened to, they won't follow up, or they won't report again. The other aspect is we don't have disability desks at the different police stations. We've been lucky that the civil society organizations have come out and they advocated for the human rights desk. But me, I still believe that we need to advocate for a disability desk at each police station. We've written letters at FIDA Uganda asking for this, and we've been told that they don't have the resources to separate the disability desk from the human rights desk. But I believe this money is there. It can be looked at. So that someone specifically at the police handles women and girls with disabilities, handles gender-based violence of women and girls with disabilities. The other thing is delayed justice. Once they come, for example, to our offices, you have to handle them as a priority. It's one of our policies. They are handled first because it's me who handles them when they come. So you find like if she comes to dance, she comes to me, and then you tell her come back, they get tired. And also the courts of law and the laws give discretion is with the magistrate and the judge. So sometimes adjournments happen over and over, and you find like a victim or a survivor won't follow up their cases. So we won't know how many cases have been won against the perpetrators. We won't know how many how many women and children with disabilities have been killed. Maybe they've reported this man gone back home, and they've been what? They've been killed or beaten up. The other thing that we look at, the donor dependency. Most of our NGOs are donor dependent, meaning if a project, for example, FIDA provides legal aid, but if a donor goes away, if the project I'm working under that's on disability, enhancing justice for women and girls with disabilities, if it stops funding us, that means we want to follow up these cases, meaning we won't have the statistics separated from the general statistics that we have. Right now, we are very lucky that we have a separate. We know women with disabilities. I separate that information. Then also, there's also the generalized one of other women that are not with disabilities. The other aspect, we don't have a national database to have this information. As a country that is independent, we are supposed to have a national database that has all this information, but we don't have it. Even at the district level, it's not there. If it's there, it's not yet updated because of the census thing that I've already mentioned before. And the other thing is we are not some organizations don't segregate the information. They just generalize that women and girls are facing gender-based violence. They don't have that aspect of women that are facing gender-based violence, that with disabilities or girls with disabilities are this number, this is the number. They don't have that. It's just a generalization. So if they can come out, it can tell us, you know what, how many maybe are facing gender-based violence, how many maybe are facing issues of land, how many are facing issues of child neglect, among others. But it's just a generalization that women as a whole, they don't like specific, they're not specific per se, and that's causing problems. Solution and national database would do for us capacity building of the stakeholders, that's police and local leaders to be responsive, special desk at the police. I think I mentioned that. Swift justice, swift response and follow-up of their cases, very, very vital. Advocacy on issues of where do you report, referral pathway is also very, very vital. And then also when you look at things like having sign language interpreters, some of them come and report, women and girls with hearing disability come and report, but they don't have sign language interpreters, so no one understands them, meaning their cases are not being noted down. Then there are issues like also the other thing that we can look at are the short-term movement building. We have to come up as a disability movement strong, not be in different associations and different organizations, but then we have to come out and demand for these statistics, because many are dying out there, they're not reporting. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Agnes. Perhaps I will need you to touch more a bit on the referral pathways. This is something that I noted. In case I forget, ask please. When you're making your last remarks, you can come to it. How do we, what is the process? Where do we go? Is there like a toll-free line, things like that? So, but let me ask Alan first, then when you get an opportunity, please answer that. Thank you. So, Alan, I'm coming to you. What steps can the government and non-state actors take to ensure that persons with disabilities are meaningfully included in the judicial system and processes at all levels? Did you get the question, Alan, or I repeat it?
Repeat.
That what steps can our government specifically, and non-state actors like other organizations, CSO, DPO, other players take to ensure that persons with disabilities are meaningfully included in the judicial system and processes at all levels? Alan, your internet is acting up, I think. I don't know whether you've heard the question, but your internet is acting up. We have no feedback from your end.
Asha, are you hearing me?
Yes, please.
Yes, I had the question, and quite a number of things can be done. First, You see, the general ignorance among the public, public servants or judicial officers, and this can be addressed by sensitization or public awareness.
Alan, we lost you. Is it me, Shana? Or all of us have lost him?
All of
Yeah,
I
he's,
think
us.
all of us have lost him.
yeah, he's reconnecting. Let us give him a minute there.
Okay then.
Apologies to our listeners. Problems of internet connection, African challenges. Please bear with us. And as Alan comes in, perhaps Aggie, you could answer that question I was talking about referral pathways.
Okay, thank you so much, Asha. When you look at referral pathways, they are like roadmaps. The way you see a roadmap, like they will direct you in the right way. So what some organizations have done, we have organizations like CEDOVIP, Center for Prevention of Domestic Violence. It has come up with a directorate. First of all, it has trained its members. It has a network. In that network, you'll find medical care, you'll find vocational training, that's economic empowerment, you'll find legal aid, you'll find education, you'll find counseling. So it's a network of different CSOs. In there, they've developed a directory. So in case any of the organization, for example, the medical care organization has a victim that needs legal aid, maybe they've checked them, they've given them free medical care, and they're like, where can we take this victim to? This victim now needs medical care or needs counseling. Like may call up FIDA Uganda, then may call up another organization for counseling. So it's information that has this organization, who is the contact person, what's their number, where are they located, if I call this person, are they responsive? So it's a mechanism of sharing resources, and this directory has all the addresses, what they do, the contact person, the addresses, where they are located, and it's very, very vital, and it's very, very, it has easy work for some of the gender-based violence victims and survivors. But then also, we can't forget that we have the police and the local leaders who are standalone. So if you come up with IEC materials that have a referral pathways, like for example, the beaten, you were due report, you show that the victims or the community, in case someone is beaten, because in some cases the victims won't report. But then also we have whistleblowers in the communities, or community activists, or social workers in there that are working. Sometimes they're the ones who go to police and report these cases, or go to the local leaders and report these cases. So IEC materials with such information of where you report is also a referral mechanism. If you report at police and they've not helped you, which other entity can help you? If you come to FIDA, for example, shall be like, you need counseling, we can always connect you to a counseling person. If it's medical care, because sometimes these victims, when they go to police asks for Form 3 and it's for paying. But then we have entities in place, organizations that are giving money out for you to go and ensure that the doctor is paid and everything. Because this is what is happening. The victims are paying a lot of money, yet this is a victim. That's why they're not reporting, because the form 3, which is supposed to be free of charge, is being charged. So what am I saying? The posters can help if they're in different local languages, so that the community, so that the girls and the women with disabilities know the mechanism of reporting and the injustice of prosecution at the end of the day. And maybe FIDA Uganda is down here. After FIDA Uganda will ensure that this man is prosecuted. They watch in brief of this matter. This matter is not doesn't get lost due to corruption. So this helps the victim know at the end of the day, this person who has caused me pain will be arrested. So this helps a lot. Thank you so much, Asha.
You're welcome. I wanted to ask something further around that. So you're saying these posters are placed in the communities, like at the LC, the police station. How does that girl with albinism or a little person or a girl with hearing impairment, how does she access? Is she aware that there are these ICE materials?
That's why I mentioned the first time. Thank you, Asha. That's why I mentioned the first time the use of community radios. Community radios are not the radios of you go to the studio. No, this Vizindalo, you know this Vizindalo, where they announce, oh, this one has lost this
Yeah.
one, oh, this child is lost. We can use that one. But usually what organizations have done, they've taken these posters to the police and the community leaders' offices or stakeholders. Because when someone experiences gender-based violence, the first person they're going to run to is the Nabachala, if not the Nabachala, police, or the LC. These people are very, very vital in our fight against domestic violence or sexual and gender-based violence. So when you hang these posters, and maybe they're in Langi, they're in Acholi, they're in Lusoga, they're in Luganda, the person, even the police, once you've trained them and you've told them this is a referral pathway, this is how they're supposed to report, oh, this is the directory of whatever organization that can help these people free of charge. Because this network is free of charge. Maybe the medical, it might be a subsidized amount. But there's this information, if you use a community radio, the IS materials at police, the directory is with the local leaders, because local leaders also sometimes fail and they call us as FIDA Uganda. If this victim is, for example, we have an office in a given district and they are referred to us, we know what to do as an organization because we are known worldwide. So the referral mechanism, just interpret it through local language or put it into a directory of sorts where the organizations are there with their contacts. Toll-free numbers are there because FIDA has a toll-free. Other organizations like Sauti 116 also has a toll-free. Police has a toll-free. So this information is really, really required. So the referral pathway is very, very important. It can also come to an organization like yours that specifically handles persons with disabilities. Because me, having worked with persons with disabilities for some time, sometimes they prefer their own, someone of their own, to work on them more than. But me now, they've appreciated me because I've told them, I always tell them I've worked with no depot. So that has made them open up more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Agnes. And on your back, I don't know that you remember where your question was before you dropped off.
Yes, I remember, and I started responding to it.
You had talked about, I think, ignorance. I think it was around ignorance, and you're saying there should be some kind of public sensitization campaigns, if I can bring up to speak. So please go on.
Yes. That one is very important in tackling, in enabling these public servants. I appreciate the fact that lawyers with disabilities need to be accommodated. They are competent. They have the right to practice their profession, and also they have everything takes to offer legal service. But also there is need to provide reasonable accommodation, and also this one comes through sensitization. As they're constructing court structures, they have to take into their consideration that this structure may be used by a person with disability. So accommodation has to be catered for, and also accommodation. As I talked about that, we have different disabilities. Accommodation can also stretch to the visually impaired, providing some of the materials in braille form. Those ones with hearing impairment, providing sign language interpreters in courts free of charge by court, and also maybe captioning services for the hard of hearing. Sometimes the desks are too high. If a person, a litigant is a little person, may not be able to access some of these structures, so they have to take into consideration. reasonable accommodation. But also, we need affirmative action. Affirmative action when it comes to recruitment of judicial officers. Persons with disabilities, have said, they are lawyers, so they need to occupy some of these positions. They need to become state attorneys, they need to become judges, they need to become court clerks and all that. So if they are left to compete at the same level with any other person, we may end up not having them anywhere. So they have to take into consideration their challenges and their needs when it comes to recruitment. Another thing is skills development and capacity enhancement of persons with disabilities, on-job training to cope up with the changing trends, technology, and all that to enable them meaningfully participate and be included in the judicial system. There are quite a number of things, but for now, in interest of time, let me stop on those.
Thank you, Alan. I wanted to also ask you that someone like me who uses a wheelchair and I have a court case actually suing someone, maybe a tort or a civil case. What steps particularly could help me access justice? If you could speak more around that also. 1 or 2 points, please.
Yes, Asha, that's why I said that it's important to have sensitization and public awareness about court users with disabilities. If these judicial officers are sensitized about the unique accessibility needs of court users with disabilities, including lawyers, including complainants, those ones who have cases. So if the building is not accessible to a wheelchair user, then because court is not about the building, court is a composition of court officials. So which means a court can sit even outside. So these judicial officers can be accommodative and they handle your case wherever it's convenient upon request. I think that's what can be done if we are still progressively working on modification of existing buildings. These judicial officers should be lenient enough, considerate enough to handle a matter anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Shana, if it's okay with you, I wanted to pose this last question to Alan, then we can go to Aggie, and then they make their last points. Alan, I wanted you to share some examples of successful initiatives or strategies that have promoted the participation of persons with disabilities in accessing justice within Uganda. Could you give us examples of where some of this is happening, or we are not lucky enough to have anything in place yet?
Yes, there are a number of initiatives that have been adopted or that are ongoing to enable or promote participation of persons with disabilities accessing justice. One of them is ADR, alternative dispute resolution. Yes, sometimes court processes are tedious, are long, are lengthy, and expensive. So court has come up with initiatives such as mediation, arbitration to enable persons with disabilities access justice at a little or no cost. So ADR is one of them. Also, courts have modified buildings. Now some of court structures have ramps. They have speakers to enable those ones who are hard of hearing to hear what's going on. Some court have put, a few of them have put sign language interpreters, which is a plus. So those are some of the initiatives. Another initiative, there has been continuous training of judicial officers organized by our DPOs, the Disability People's Organizations, and other civil society organizations, which have made judicial officers sensitive to the needs of court users with disabilities. Another initiative that has been made is also to appoint judicial officers with disabilities. There is one who is visually impaired who was appointed, and recently they also appointed another who is physically disabled. So those, if such are appointed, when they're coming up with judicial maybe work plans, policies and everything, these people will put out our voices, because in the disability movement we say nothing for us without us. So if you are talking about disability accommodations, these will be good representatives to have our issues addressed. Another is High Court with support from NODIPO and PILAC and other organizations developed High Court rules which are intended to enable court users with disabilities access justice with ease. It talks about lawyers with disabilities, talks about those ones having criminal offenses and other court legal issues. So those high court rules are being put in place. They are yet to be signed. They are in their final stages. So I think once they are operationalized, they will be good to help persons with disabilities access justice. Another is continuous engagement and collaboration between courts and also organizations of persons with disabilities. This has provided a platform of engagement on how best persons with disabilities can be helped to access justice. So, and so many other initiatives which have been made.
Thank you.
For now, I'll stop at that.
Thank you, Alan. This for me has been an eye-opener. I honestly didn't know that some of these things are in place. So at least there is something for us out there. We are moving in the right direction. We just need people like you, people like us on this call, I think, to continue educating, continue raising awareness until we get there. Thank you so much. Shana, over to you.
Thank you so much, Asha and Alan. It's been really enlightening to know that there are some practices in place to enable us with disabilities get services, because some of us, we are caught. So for me, except knowing that Alan is a lawyer and Florence is a lawyer, I don't know how I would go to court to get my case heard. So then this goes to you, Agnes. Okay, so one thing that is standing out from this discussion is that access to equitable justice for persons with disabilities and victims of violence against women is very difficult. So how can we go about intentional, equitable access to justice for persons with disabilities, victims of violence against women, and also survivors of violence against women? Over to you, Agnes.
I think the first thing that we should do is how we can be intentional when it comes to survivors of gender-based violence, women and girls with disabilities, is to ensure that, one, we are responsive as a whole. Being responsive means it's not only for the police, not only for the LCs, but each individual is responsive in their own right. Because if you know that there's a woman out there who is facing domestic violence, they're not reporting, and these women are really, really going through a lot. Be a whistleblower. You can also be anonymous, because sometimes if you report at FIDA Uganda, we don't put out your identity. As lawyers, we go through professional ethics, and confidentiality is one of the things that we look at. So we need responsiveness from everyone. not only people with disabilities, but everyone. It has to be everyone's, to do. If I can say to-do list, or if I can say it's everyone's mandate to report cases of disabilities, and ensuring that at the end of the day the police is following up, that would be good. The other aspect is they were discussing the legal aid bill, and I think government wants to take over the legal aid fraternity, which is good, because at the end of the day, this will do away with things like dependency. Legal aid means free lawyers. From the word go that you report, from the time a girl and a woman report to a time they're registered, because we have to get their information, where they're coming from, what their name, their age, the disability in there, what has happened. All that information is very, very important. It's like a biodata of sorts. So the time when you sit down and try to mediate, because usually what I've known with survivors of gender-based violence is you don't just go and report straight away. You need to sit down with the partner, with the perpetrator, and see what can be done. Unless it's sexual. We don't sit down with sexual perpetrators. We do not. But if it's like physical beating, physical violence, emotional, those ones you can sit down. Because we've seen cases where people go ahead and arrest the perpetrators, who are usually the partners of the women who have reported. And what happens? She'll come and withdraw the case from police. She'll be like, me leave my husband alone. He's unproviding. You've arrested him, but we didn't eat at night. So what you have to do is invite him for mediation. We usually invite them for mediation at our offices. We sit down and discuss. We make a memorandum of understanding that he will never beat her. The next time he does beat her, we shan't sit down with him, but we shall go straight away to what? Report him to police and ensure that he's prosecuted at the end of the day. And the other thing is doing away with delay in accessing justice. The reason why they don't come forth and they're not reporting, like I stated earlier, is because there is delay. The adjournments. This woman is not even a wheelchair user, but she's crawling to court every now and then, and you'll keep on adjourning. She'll give up. So swift handling of cases of persons with disabilities. At FIDA, we've seen cases where, in our different districts, we've been able to advocate for courts to first handle cases of persons with disabilities over other cases in different districts, and this has worked. We've written letters because you're mandated to bring out an outcome, and one of the things they're looking at is you writing to courts. We've written to courts and told them, Banange, first handle women with disabilities, first handle men with disabilities, then others can come. If a matter is before a given magistrate, to inform them, my client has come with me, but this man, my client is a person with disabilities. My client is a woman who has faced gender-based violence, meaning we have to ensure that they are protected at the end of the day. The other thing, a national shelter would be very ideal. Government is reluctant to set up a shelter. Why? Because they know what comes up with a shelter. You need to feed, you need to counsel, you need to rehabilitate, you need to integrate. But then at the end of the day, a national shelter will do. Most of the organization shelters are donor funded. After COVID, most of them closed. We have like Action Aid and Uganet that are still running shelters. And they are very few. Yet they have so many women that are facing gender-based violence. We are all referring cases there. Some are not even taking them up because they tell you, they're not in our mandate. They're not on our checklist. So this woman goes back to the same situation she has run away from. The other thing is working as a disability movement to ensure that we come up with what I call the disability justice. I called it disability justice what? I've forgotten disability justice something. I've forgotten what I called it. I had disability justice activism. We come out and...
You said movement building or something, but activism I think is okay.
Yes, movement building is already there because it's a disability movement, but this can be a disability justice activism. You don't do it during the 16 days of activism that we do every December or November, because gender-based violence is 360 days. It's an entire year. It happens every day. Even right now, it's happening somewhere, somehow. A woman is dying, a woman is being battered, a woman is mentally being raped. It has to be a disability justice activism whereby it runs throughout the year. It can be quarterly. It can be biannual, depending on the funds that are available. All of you coming out. All of you speaking out. All of you marching to parliament. You have representatives in there. What are they doing in parliament? Let them come out. Then the other thing that I talked about was that I noted down was to ensure that at the end of the day we are doing advocacy, we are doing legal reform. The legal the laws are still archaic when it comes to gender-based violence, when it comes to gender justice, when it comes to women and girls with disabilities. They're still archaic. Not the terms, you're not looking at those the terms that were looked at. They were changed. But there are those sections that need to be tackled, where we need to sit down and, highlight them to ensure that at the end of the day, we are bringing about change. Then the other thing, transformative justice in eliminating. This transformative justice means we come up with mechanisms and solutions on how to ensure that these courts are not delaying. Like what we are doing as we are writing to courts, telling them, man, handle these women effectively. And the courts have listened. But the courts in Kampala, we haven't done that because Kampala is kind of a different dynamic from upcountry. Upcountry is easy to interface with the judges and the magistrates because this is the community, so they kind of abide. If they're not coming through, you tell them. Being accountable, us as being accountable, that means we have to tell the people we are working for what we are doing. We have to go back and give a report. Also, feedback from them is very important. Their involvement in everything that we do, their voices are very important. That means if you're showcasing a case of gender-based violence, showcase the victims, hide their identity, but then bring them. You can bring them and they speak. Let them be their own voices at the end of the day. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Adi. Like I said, I think we need to have this on a rolling basis. There is so much that we need to learn. There is so much that I've learned from it. Has been an insightful presentation from your end, and of course with your co-guest Alan. Thank you guys for sharing your expertise and insights on these vital matters. We have run out of time, but if you can allow us, I could permit you to give us maybe a minute, a parting shot. What would you want us to know? I'll go with ladies first.
I like the feminist side of you, Asha. Thank you
100%.
so much. Thank you so much, Shanna, for inviting me. Thank you for writing to me and giving me this opportunity. I'm very passionate about disability. Very, very, even over gender, but I'm very passionate about disability aspect. And everyone at the organization they know it. And what I can say is fundraising is very important. There is space where we can fundraise for everything that we need to do to ensure that there is change. And it's a joint effort. It's not one man fight. Leave no one behind. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Adi. It has been a pleasure, and I hope that we can learn from you again. Council Alan, my friend, you have a minute. I tell lawyers, we know you, but yeah.
Thank you, Asha, and everyone who has spared time to be part of this conversation. Yes, access to justice is still a challenge to many, especially persons with disabilities, and a lot needs to be done in as far as empowering persons with disabilities, first of all, themselves to become self-advocates, and also know that these courts are available for them, and also make them aware of the available legal aid services, pro bono services, because lawyers must now provide some pro bono at some point. Yes, there are some points they do get when they offer free legal services. But also we need to continue engaging public servants, continue engaging judicial officers on how best court users with disabilities can be helped to access justice. So such engagements are important. We should go on and engage and talk until we get everyone access justice. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Alan. We appreciate all your insight. We appreciate you guys your time. I think it has been a learning curve for me, a very steep one, especially with what you guys had to talk about. There are some good points that are happening, some good work that is happening, and there is also need for continuous improvement. I will call it from that aspect. Thank you for joining us tonight. Shana will help me close.
Thank you so much, Asha, for hosting. And Alan and Agnes, I really cannot say thank you enough because this has been so insightful. Sometimes we think we have an idea about an SDG and what it entails until we speak to the practitioners and we're like, oh wow, there's some good work that's been done. Although we tend to think that, oh, nothing has been done because we're not seeing so much. But when you speak to practitioners, you're like, wow, a lot is being done and much of it is impressive, like the high court rules that are being worked on to help court users with disabilities access justice. I like the fact that Agnes highlighted the need for a national database on persons with disabilities. I think that is being worked on by the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, though this has been in the works for like quite a few years. It's about time that they rolled it out. But I also like the fact that we highlighted the challenge of data, how inconsistent it is, because we've been using statistics for 2016. Are we really still 12.4%? Yeah, so there's a lot that needs to be looked into in those areas, but overall, this has been quite an insightful conversation. So would like to thank you. Thank you for making the time and for actually extending it to close to 30 minutes over the allocated time. I wish to wish you all a good weekend